Hi everyone, we are live. Did Facebook go through? Yes, it did. All right. Oh, wow. So do we have a doozy for you guys tonight? I actually just made the mistake of just reading and watching some videos about what's going on in Paris and France right now. And I'm sufficiently spooked. That is for sure. So I'm glad that I put that on the agenda for today because there is really some crazy stuff going on. Let me make sure that it's got the right microphone because that was an issue last time. Okay. Oh, do we have? Okay, yes, we do. Okay, cool. All right. All right, so let's see who's in today. We have Rose Blight, Cap and Mac, Lone Wolf, Shadow Bear, Nomad is in. Cap and Mac 82. I think I just said Cap and Mac. John Deal, Sean Marolf D. Tristan Goodrich, John Morgan, Iron Daisies, David Neal, Canna Cowboy, ta-da! We have, let's see, Tony, 2A Metalhead, JJ, Squid Monkey, Hugh Galbraith, another person going by Nomad. There's two of you. That's funny. Let's see. We have Bonnie Scott. Wow, you guys are having an extensive conversation. Gone Fishing Eric. Let's go down here. Chris B, Paul Roam, David Morton, Sally Broken Prophet, Jesse Meek, Freedom Ring, Tony Champion, Jason Wise, LMJL, Robin P is here, J Tube. Not really sure how to pronounce that. Crapshoot. Crapshoot 5264, Broken, Fox P2, Michael W. Urban Sr., Fine Ape is in, Dave Smith, Mark Sullivan, Liberty Barbecue, John Peterson, BSB, Omega is in, Bruce the Boss, Don Miller, Star-Lord, Greg Bowers, Daryl, Calico Jack, Ben Christner, Astronaut Boy, Boris Bulyak, SNC, CPTB Frank. Chris Britt says, "I'm in hope you're all okay." I'm okay here. I'm getting increasingly freaked out about next week. I am not going to lie to you. I almost feel like maybe I shouldn't have watched what's happening in France. I probably shouldn't have looked at all the polls that say Biden is between 93 to 99% chance to win, according to the polls. Granted, they were wrong last election, but we'll see what happens, won't we? Oh, boy. Well, okay. So in that regard, I'm also going to tell everyone ahead of time. I'm actually going to remember to mention some partners and sponsors today. First and foremost, we'll talk about it more when we get to the part about France, but basically what you need to know is France, Italy, and Spain are all under new restrictions for COVID. They're under new various levels of lockdown. People are freaking out, fleeing the cities, and the groceries, everything's in gridlock. People are protesting, they're rioting, trying to get out of the city, and the grocery store shelves are empty. Surprise, surprise. So in light of that, here is my link. You guys know that I am hooked up with My Patriot Supply through my website, www.preparewithliberty.com. I just put it in the chat. It's also in the description of this video. If you guys used some of your supplies, if you weren't prepared last time, I actually did all of my emergency shopping and prepping this past Sunday and Monday. Last time I was about 3 weeks ahead of the curve, ahead of everyone else flipping their lids as far as COVID is concerned. I'm also worried about unrest following the election, and there's a whole bunch of police departments that are gearing up for it. So I'm a little freaked out. I'm pretty well stocked. Even toilet paper. Like, who knows if people are going to go nuts over that again. Also, I use this daily. The Alexa Pure water filters. It's basically a Berkey with a charcoal filter in it. So you fill it up, and there's different sizes. I have the biggest size. I think it's like, well, actually, it might be the mid-size. It holds like 4 gallons or something like that. You put the water in, and like it filters out, and it cleans out like 99% of whatever crap might be in your water. It's a hell of a lot easier and cheaper than buying water bottles. So all of that stuff. Rose Blight says, Mom and I have 1 month of food, solar and whole house generator, plenty of ammo. So we are going to hide at the farm for at least a week. I think that is a good idea. And speaking of ammo, I'm sure that you folks have seen that it's pretty impossible to find for the most part now. And Walmart has announced that they are pulling all of their ammo from their shelves. And in fact, I actually knew about this before everyone else did. What day was that? I have a friend that works at Walmart, and she told us, I want to say 2 days ago when she went into work for the nightly meeting. Actually trying to scroll through that group chat would be insane right now. And basically, what they said at the meeting is what they've been saying on the few articles I've seen floating around, that Walmart is concerned about rioting and civil unrest following the election. And of course, because everything that's going on in Philly right now, DC, and New York, they are pulling ammo from the shelves. So this isn't something where they're worried about, people breaking in and stealing stuff or looting and, keeping it for themselves or selling it to someone else. They are fearing unrest. They are fearing that people are going to break in and steal the guns and steal the ammo and use it against other people. Let's see if we can pull up an article for you guys. Let's see. I sent one to myself earlier, so I wouldn't have to go searching for it. I'm surprised by it and not at the same time. It's not all that surprising to me in the way that, they pulled guns from the shelves every time that there's a shooting. Well, not every time, but the last couple times. Let me pick the right screen. And of course, they stores pulled things off after that documentary came out. I think it was Bowling for Columbine, stuff like that. So Walmart, this is from a News 19 CBS out of... Oh, it might even be here in South Carolina. Hard to tell. So Walmart temporarily pulling guns and ammunition from store shelves, citing civil unrest. Now, there is a lot of people that were messaging me about this today, thinking that it's some big conspiracy theory or something, or they weren't sure if it was true. They had thought that it was a rumor, but I can confirm I knew about it a couple days ago before it started hitting the newsrooms. So this says that you're still allowed to buy firearms and ammo from Walmart, but have to ask a store associate for help. I know that some Walmarts, like the one that my friend works at, is pulling them completely, and you're not going to be able to buy it at all for an undetermined period of time. So we'll see. This one says that it's temporary and you can still get it Oh, this is interesting. So this is out of Arkansas, and here's an update saying that they have returned it. Okay. Interesting. That's really interesting. Well, let's see this. So this was published yesterday. Walmart is temporarily removing guns and ammo from store shelves as America heads toward a heated presidential election. Video captured by a 5 News photographer shows stores in Northwest Arkansas are already taking action. The store that my friend works at actually is in New Hampshire. So New Hampshire was doing it as well, which is kind of funny because, Arkansas and New Hampshire are some of the places farthest removed from some of the stuff that's going on. But nonetheless, they are taking it down. 5 News received the following comment from a media partner with Walmart when asked about removing firearms and ammunition from their store shelves. And that statement is, "It's important to note that we only sell firearms in approximately half of our stores." All of the ones down here have them. Primarily where there are large concentrations of hunters, sportsmen, and sportswomen. We have seen some isolated civil unrest, and as we have done on several occasions over the last few years, we have moved our firearms and ammunition off the sales floor as a precaution for the safety of our associates and customers. These items do remain available for purchase by customers. So Walmart does sell firearms in approximately 4,700 of their stores. So some stores removed it in the wake of George Floyd's death. I actually did not know that. Again, this says that you can still buy it, but you have to get help from a store associate, which, depending on the store, can actually be pretty difficult to do. It was pretty impossible back in Massachusetts. When asked, one Walmart shopper, who also happens to be a gun dealer, said the precautionary measures make sense under the current climate, just not in small town America. I find that very hard to believe, honestly. I feel like a lot of times these articles, they find one person and they're like, "Oh yeah, this guy's totally a gun owner. Oh yeah, he's gonna go pose as our gun owner." And by the way that they talk, you can absolutely tell that person has never touched a gun a day in their life. When they're like, "Oh, I got my multi clips for my full auto rifle," blah blah blah. No, you are not a gun owner. You've never even touched one if that's the way that you're talking about it. But supposedly this person said, "I can understand securing all your guns in big cities where the actual violence and riots are happening, but in podunk America, where there are small towns, a little chance of it, it doesn't make much sense to me." Well, that's weird because they said, I didn't read this wrong, right? When asked, who also happens to be a gunner, said the precautionaries make sense. Oh, just not in small town America. Got it. Okay. I mean, I don't really think, I guess it makes sense in maybe New York or places where these riots are breaking out, but I don't think that these riots are breaking out. I don't think that they would be selling guns and ammo anyways in the places where these are breaking out. So it is strange that they are doing it in places like Arkansas. And so this update was posted today. So the original article came out yesterday, and the policy must have been midnight on the 28th, perhaps, into the 29th that my friend told me. So this is a day later. Now they're saying that they're returning guns and ammo to floor displays after temporarily removing them from some stores this week. Let's see. Maybe there was a lot of people in podunk America that complained about it. So this says Walmart is returning guns and ammo to store shelves after temporarily removing them in some stores in response to civil unrest in Philadelphia following an officer-involved shooting. Things were pretty bad in D.C. too, to my knowledge, a couple nights ago. A media partner with Walmart released the following statement on Friday. After civil civil unrest earlier this week resulted in damage to several of our stores. Consistent with actions we took over the summer, we asked stores to move firearms and ammunition from the sales floor to a secure location in the back of the store in an abundance of caution. As the current incidents have remained geographically isolated, we have made the decision to begin returning these products to the sales floor immediately. You know what that says to me is enough people probably got upset about it, because I mean, why would they remove it for just 24 hours? It's not like the stuff in Philly has stopped. I'm pretty sure it's still going on as we speak. So to just make a big deal about removing things and then putting them back less than 24 hours later, I don't think so. It says this isn't the first time that they've removed them, and that is the extent of the update, which is interesting to say the least. I see that we've had a few super chats come in, so let me check those out. And then I guess we'll talk about France and everything that's going on there. So let's see. This is not updated. So man, it's weird, man. We don't have Trash Man in. I wonder if that notification was him sending me the intro on Patreon. And nope, it does not seem to be the case. All right, here we go. Now we've got the super chats going. All right, so let's see. Ghost Shadow says local Walmart pulled BB guns, airsoft, and bows as well. Now that is pretty crazy. That is really nuts. What's interesting is here in South Carolina, those things are just like all willy-nilly on the shelves. In Massachusetts, you needed to get someone to unlock the cabinet even for a BB gun and things like that. And slingshots are illegal there. Bows, I'm trying to think. They have arrows, but they don't have tips on them, and you have to buy those separately. And I think you need help for that too in Massachusetts. But here in South Carolina, they're just like hanging out on the shelves, which is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. But man, the ammo. I was, just for shits and gigs, I went to, where did I look? Man, I looked at a few places this week, and the one that sticks out to me the most, and granted, like it's Cabela's, big box store is going to be more expensive, but they were selling, it's out of stock. Everything is out of stock except for blanks. And it's really bizarre to me that these many places are selling blanks right now. Like, I don't understand that. But anyways, Cabela's 1,000 rounds of 223 is going for like $750. That is insane. My husband was looking on Cheaper Than Dirt, same price on cheaper than dirt, which is nuts. And I mean, I remember a few years ago, and this is in Massachusetts where prices were already hiked because, I mean, we've been under a shortage forever up there. It was never this bad up there, though. I used to buy like the green boxes, bulk boxes for like, I don't know, $50. And now it's over $700 for 1,000 rounds. That is absolutely insane. Q asks, is the Chili Mac still in the stockpile? No, it is not. Though, fun fact, I have recently introduced gluten into my diet, and it's been working well, so I could have kept it. No, what we have now, we have 2 of the emergency food kits from my Patriot Supply. Like, they come in these nice little totes, too. We have 2 of those, and I have a big thing of like 6 number 10 cans of dehydrated sausage. And I think we have, oh goodness, we have tons of rice, tons of quinoa, canned beans. A lot of that is stuff that I bought last time around, and we moved it down with us. But I mean, we have a pretty good amount. I went to the grocery store on Monday, and I cleaned them out of like bulk packages of meat. But I mean, they didn't have a lot to begin with. The grocery stores down here are weird. They have way less in them than they did in Massachusetts. But and I was like so worried that someone would say something about it, or the cashier wouldn't let me buy it all or anything, because they were doing that in Massachusetts. They were not letting people stock up. They were rationing everything. And locals have told me that they were rationing things here too, like in end of March and through April. But yeah, like I'm feeling things. I got, like, my cart was literally just, well, pumpkin items, because apparently it was National Pumpkin Day. And then it was like bulk meat and like frozen veggies. And I just shoved it all in the freezer. So, I mean, we're stocked, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Robert Chappelle says, "Where am I?" says Joe Biden. Bruce the Boss Brooks says, "Blue states, be prepared to follow Europe's lockdowns in a month. If Biden wins, everyone be prepared for another national lockdown." And that is what is scaring me, because, I was talking to some of my girlfriends when they talked about the Walmart thing. Earlier in the week, I told them the day that Spain declared its new state of emergency and started putting their travel bans back in place, that happened Sunday. And I messaged them all. I messaged my closest friends on Sunday. And I said, look, Europe is locking down again. Get your supplies now. Do whatever you need to do to be prepared. And most of them said, like, oh, I live in Ohio, or I live in Oklahoma, or I live wherever. Like, they're not going to lock down again. It's not going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. We're going to be fine. And it's like, well, okay, your state might not lock down, but these Europe locking down, if the blue states lock down, that will mess with supply chains and things like that. And bottom line, if Joe Biden gets elected, which is the prediction right now, and I've been getting shit for this lately, as a libertarian. People are like, oh, you're stumping for Trump, you've crossed over, blah, 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 blah. Honestly, I'm terrified of what will happen if Joe Biden actually wins this thing, and I mean, that doesn't even mean he'd win legitimately. Project Veritas has gotten videos of all kinds of voter fraud and election fraud. They just got a video where they, went in and pretended to be someone else, and they paid this lady $500, and she walked around and showed them how she changes ballots illegally. And she harasses senior citizens and gives them gifts and things like that and changes their ballots. And then she goes around to different post offices and things to, like, drop off the ballots in different places, so it doesn't look like they're all coming from one location. And she was able to change 7,000 votes just by herself. And she's working with other people. And in some of these states, last year, Trump won by such a small percentage in some of those states that you get one or two people doing this. And I mean, that could totally throw it. So, I mean, if Joe Biden wins, I am very scared. I have never been this apprehensive about an election in my entire life. And now, granted, I've only really been paying attention for like 10 years or so now, but man, I'm freaked out. I am freaked out. Just a random dude says, have you heard about Ashton Kutcher's shady ties to the CIA regarding the organization Thorn? Politicians, including the Clintons and Kamala Harris, were involved. Look up Whitney Webb's coverage on it. I have heard nothing about that. Chester Thomas, thank you very much, says, Walmart is just virtue signaling as usual. Oh, well, time to make your local FFL rich. I mean, if you can find anything at your local FFL. I mean, it is virtue signaling on Walmart's end, but it's still, it's scary to me that there are companies and big corporations that, virtue signaling or not, the reason that they're citing is civil unrest, and they're getting freaked out about it. I mean, I So, a personal story here. You guys all know that I've moved, and I don't remember if I said anywhere publicly about some of the problems that we've been having in the house. And it's a rental, so it's fine. We won't be here forever. We'll be here for another 10 months, maybe less if we can swing it. There is a hole in my kitchen ceiling right now because the property management company and the owner did not believe us when we told them there was a leak in the roof that was coming in through the kitchen. And they said, no, it's condensation from the air conditioner. It'll go away. And it happened another 2-3 more times. And I told them about it. And they said, oh, no. Well, guess what? We had a hurricane that just came through here. And part of some of the heavy rains that came along with that put a flat out hole in the kitchen ceiling. Yeah, the hole itself, it's not huge, but it's about this big. And then there's a big water stain about this big around it. And they're not really doing much of anything to fix it. But anyway, so when that happened, I started panic looking on Zillow to try to find a house, right? Like, oh my God, because also we haven't been threatened that we'd be kicked out, but like the guy's like, oh, you're causing so many problems. And it's like, no, dude, you just, you have a leaky roof and your plumbing sucks. We're not causing the plumbing to leak. And, anyways, so I was like panic looking on Zillow, and the prices of property out here, even in rural South Carolina, has doubled in the last few months. It's insane, because the last time I looked was like January maybe, and you could still get like acres, and you could still get like a decent house on like 10 acres for $200, $250. Those same properties now are going for $500,000, and they're going like that. The market here is just as bad as it was up in Massachusetts, which is insane to me. I'm scrolling through, and anything that I'm like, oh, that looks good, contingent, under contract already, when it has been up for 2 days. And there were tons of properties up in January. That same search that had hundreds and hundreds of properties in January, five right now. There are 5 properties that match the description that I put into the search months ago that back then had like 100 results. People are fleeing out of the cities. They're fleeing out of the blue states. People know. Well, first of all, they don't want to be stuck in a city in case there's another lockdown. A lot of people, fled from the cities in the really urban areas during the first lockdown. But now, there's also that people are afraid about rioting and the unrest that's happening and everything that's going on with Antifa and BLM and all of that. And then, in Boston, in Providence, there were leaders of local chapters of BLM and Antifa that actually did interviews with local cable TV news and flat out said, and this was months ago, they flat out said, if Trump wins, they are burning the cities down. They're already traveling into the suburbs in some areas. Man, it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because like, okay, I am terrified of what things would look like if Joe Biden wins. I mean, if Joe Biden wins, we're getting a national mask mandate. He's going to lock everything down. I mean, some of the folks in Congress might try to fight it. They might try to bring it to the courts. But I mean, really, who knows, right? Like, who knows? If anything like that were to happen, I would not abide by that at all. But so, I mean, we have Biden's insane tax policy that I just did a video on. And interestingly enough, it is not being shown to people on YouTube because I can see how many like impressions and how many people they're like putting it in their subscription lists and on their feeds and stuff like that. YouTube's not putting out, which is no surprise because it's critical of Joe Biden and his tax plan. And I feel like it's critical in a very fair way. I'm just looking at, like economics studies and evaluations on his tax plan and the impact it would have on GDP and things like that. I think it's very fair and factual, not being shown. But between his tax plan, talking about, Biden care and Bidenomics and all the free crap that he wants to give away, talking about how we need a mask mandate, talking about how we need national lockdowns. Like, if he wins, that's what we're getting. We are getting what I just moved 1,000 miles across the country to escape. And then it'll be national. Some states, some deep red states, they might try to fight it. I don't know how much luck they're going to have. The argument for states' rights these days, it really seems to depend on who it favors as to, whether or not the state wins out. Just because these things have been ruled unconstitutional in Michigan and I think Pennsylvania, but there are all kinds of things. There are court decisions that come up in, say the Midwest around gun control, for example. And just because that decision was made out there, like Massachusetts still did whatever it wanted as far as gun laws. So if Biden wins, but then if Trump wins, right, people are going to apparently blow everything up and set everything on fire. Either way, you're doomed. It's a lose situation. And the polls, man, the polls were not great last year or last election. They were flat out wrong. They were terrible. No one expected Trump to win. I think there was one poll, that was done by, I believe it was Nate Silver, maybe. I think it was one of the Nate Silver polls that predicted that Trump would win. And that would be the only one. And I believe Nate Silver is with 538. Well, look at 538 right now. Out of, and this was just updated 2 minutes ago. They have articles that say that out of like 100 situations and simulations that they've run, Trump is predicted to win only 2 of those. This is ridiculous. So this says, we're now less than 5 days away from Election Day, and Joe Biden leads in both national and state polls. And I believe he has a 17-point lead right now, which is huge. It says at this point, President Trump needs a big polling error in his favor if he's going to win. Although the error doesn't need to be as big as you might think if you were just looking at national polls. Take Pennsylvania. The state our forecast currently thinks is most likely to decide the election. And what's interesting about Pennsylvania, in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, I believe Republicans are actually in favor right now. But there's funky stuff going on there in that more Republicans than they thought signed up for mail-in voting. And now in Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Supreme Court denied an extension of the deadline. And so now what's happening is now they're saying, oh shit, you have to bring your ballot in person or else it won't get here in time and it won't be counted. And they just decided this. So people are freaking out. And that does put a big disadvantage on the Democrats because it is, for the most part, a bulk of Democrats that signed up for the mail-in voting. But in Wisconsin, for some reason, it was mostly Republicans. And so those votes aren't going to get counted possibly. And, And that's one of the states that they're saying might decide the election. It's one of the states that Trump got last year, but like or last election. Anyway, so this says Biden doesn't have much extra cushion in polls in Pennsylvania. So a 2016 magnitude polling error could deliver the state to Trump. Remember, Trump has a meaningful chance of winning the election per our forecast. No longer quite as good as the chances of rolling a 1 on a 6-sided die, but still roughly the same as the chance that it's raining in downtown LA. I don't even know what it means. Apparently that's 1 in 10. So they're saying that Trump has a 1 in 10 chance of winning. Man, that is frightening. They're also forecasting that Democrats are going to take a majority in Congress. But I mean, then at the same time, though, I mean, it's bizarre because you look at the rallies that Biden was having. He has put a complete lid on everything. Closer we get to the election and the more and more crap that comes out about Hunter Biden, the FBI did confirm he is still under investigation from the 2019 money laundering investigation, by the way. So Biden has put a lid on it, but the events that he was doing, man, they were minuscule. No one was showing up. In one case, Trump supporters showed up to his rally, and then they weren't really doing much, but then Joe started heckling them. And what did he call them? Like dummies or something like that. I don't know, but so, I mean, and you look at Trump events, and my God, there was, I think it was last Saturday, he flew to like 3 different states and did 3 different rallies throughout the day, which is damn impressive, honestly, from just like an endurance and like personal stamina standpoint. So, I mean, by visible numbers, like you go out and you look and you see people in the crowds. I mean, by visual numbers, chumps. Yes, thank you, Hugh. You would think, okay, Trump, but I don't know, man. So they've gotten new polls over the last couple days, but so far there's little evidence of the race tightening. If anything, Biden is continuing to make gains in the Midwest. He's gained since the last debate, which is nuts to me. But I mean, the last debate was it was interesting because the first debate, everyone was like, oh, Trump lost and Joe Biden lost. Everybody lost. The American people lost. But then with this last one, the conservatives said that Trump won and the Democrats said that Joe Biden won. I think, honestly, I'm neither. I'm a libertarian, a right libertarian, but a libertarian. I thought Trump won. I mean, but then again, he made that remark about low IQ individuals, and that was bad. That was bad. Dave Smith says that he did 3. Oh, wow. Even today, he did 3 rallies today in 3 states. They were limited to 250 people in Minnesota, but had 30,000 people waiting. That is insane. So, I mean, I don't like hearing that. I'm like, how can these polls be accurate? But then at the same time, there are so many people out there that just hate Trump so bad. But then, I mean, and what's bizarre is, we have all this evidence of voter fraud going on, right? And every case that we've seen of it has largely been in favor of the Democrats, right? But now it's also coming out that there's all these issues with like signature verification or different things going on that are mostly affecting poor people's ballots and Black people's ballots, and those populations are usually primarily Democrat. It's something like 2.5% or something, which is really small, but I mean, it's still a pretty big failure rate for voting, right? And then this video that we got out of Project Veritas, I'll find that and pop it up for you. This video that we had coming out of Project Veritas was a woman that was working with the GOP, but she was changing votes to Democrat, which is bizarre. I don't know if it was to like make it look more legit. I'm not really sure what I'm not really sure what that was about, quite frankly. This does not include the video. Well, you know what? I saved the video in case it got nuked. That's another thing. There are all these people getting nuked off of Facebook this week. I woke up and there was a ton of people that were nuked off of Facebook last night that are getting messages saying that they can't post until November 28th. Like, I don't know what that's about. And, you know, Philosopher, I've had her on the show before. Her husband got nuked. Here we go. Let me. Oh, that's weird. Why am I not getting sound? Okay, sorry, had to do the test. All right. So this is the video that we got out of Project Veritas. This is a short version of the video, I believe, that they had gotten. I think this came off of Twitter. Oh, it's still, why is it not working? Interesting. I'm not getting any sound. Sorry, guys. Let me figure out what this is about. Oh, because this is not set.
Agencies like the Department of Employment and Workforce, the Department of Social Services, and the Department of Motor Vehicle.
I don't know where all of that sound is coming from. Hold on, guys. I'm sorry. I have a lot of tabs open. I don't know which one was just making sound. But that's really not cool. Here we go. It's the Walmart ones. Okay, let's try this again. So, okay, Project Veritas video. Here we go.
We have Raquel on tape coercing voters to vote the right way, as well as bribing these voters with gifts.
Now, you know, on here, you chose the Republican.
I'm sorry. I didn't share the screen. All right. One last time. Sorry, guys. Wow. We're a shit show tonight.
We have Raquel on tape coercing voters to vote the right way, as well as bribing these voters with gifts.
Now, you know, on here, you chose the Republican, not a Democrat, right? Can I do this? You can go to wherever you want, but our conversation that we had, you said you were voting for Hager because you were going straight Democrat. So then we were voting for the straight down. Is that what you want to do, correct? Can I do it like that? But I'm doing it all Democrat. So you're gonna dot that in, and the line is like this, and then your initials are gonna put right here. So that way they know it was done accidentally. She didn't vote for who we wanted her to vote for. That right there is against the law for me to tell her, like, you realize you voted for. You
can't really
you're not
sway it
supposed
like
to say
that.
nothing. Look at the show. Oh, that's good. And she's gonna say, man, Mono sent me this badass shawl. You know what? I couldn't vote for him, but you're in this area, you vote for him.
Yeah.
This is what you call flipping people.
Flipping people.
What I do, picking up the balance when he was with me, that's illegal. I could go to jail. So I'm a little apprehensive to tell somebody, you know what I'm doing, you know what I'm saying? And again, once he works with me once, he's gonna say,
I guess Trump was right. I'm sorry.
How about you cheating illegal?
I'm sorry?
How about you something illegal?
Yeah. They all said he was full of shit.
Oh, hell no, he's not. It's true.
Yeah.
Because you're not supposed to do that. If I have a bunch of them, I don't take 20 here, 30 here.
Oh, that makes it not the same post office.
Of course not.
Yeah.
So because I told her to vote for Hager, so I'm gonna take a picture of her,
Mhm.
take a picture of the ballot that says Venture on there,
Mhm.
take a picture of you in the background so they know that you're freaking there.
Mhm.
Take a picture of us all together, and then I'm gonna send it to you. And you do not let anybody else know this is what I'm doing, because if I go to prison, I do not look cute in stripes, and I will hate you forever.
And so that is that. So that is, I believe there's a longer version of this video out there. But so basically, Project Veritas, they sent their little undercover journalist to this woman and paid her $500 for her to show him how to break the law and harvest ballots, basically. And so she's working for a GOP person, Garza, I believe it is, who also gave her like a $2,500 gift budget to buy gifts for people. So what she does is she goes out to all of these senior voters, right, and talks with them, tries to convince them which way to vote, and then goes in and changes their vote, or has them change their vote if they don't vote the Democrat ticket for some reason, except for Garza, and then gives them a gift when they do change their vote. That's what the whole shawl was about. So, we have all that going on. And I mean, there's no way that anyone can look at this election and say that it's legitimate no matter what happens. I mean, I think at this point, if Trump does win, there's going to be people that say like, oh, it was illegitimate and he rigged the election. I would say, well, wow, then that means that he would win despite people trying to rig the election at this point. But man, crazy stuff going on. Crazy stuff. I stopped in the middle of the super chat, so let me get to those, and then we will talk about France some more and what's going on there. I know I'm like jumping all around today, but it's like, people ask me something or they make a comment and then I see it and then go off from there. Sean Morolf says, how are you enjoying South Carolina? I am enjoying it very much, except for the house issues. I saw someone in the chat said that, I'm probably having trouble from the landlord because the way that the property values went up. And I mean, and that's entirely possible. But I mean, it's nice that even, it's really unfortunate actually, one of the neighbors even decided to have a buffet style Thanksgiving dinner for the entire neighborhood this coming Sunday. And she made these cute little flyers and handed them out. We actually got a card in our mailbox today saying that she had to call it off because she ended up being exposed to COVID, and there's a lot of old people in the neighborhood. And so she didn't want anyone to she said that she's fine. But she was worried about old people that might come. So unfortunately it's been postponed, but I mean, I live in a neighborhood where the entire neighborhood is invited to an early Thanksgiving dinner. Like, that's pretty cool. And, would never happen in Massachusetts. Let's see. Robin says, never use cheaper than dirt. They price gouge bigly. Well, I'm sure they do, but man, I mean, everything is out of stock everywhere except for like 762. You can still find 762, which is weird. Everything else, gone. I managed to get 2 boxes of 9mm this week from Warfighter Tactical. I mentioned them on the stream last week. I do have a link for you guys and a coupon code if anyone wants it. I posted it in the chat last week, but if anyone wants it, hit me up. I will send that to you. But I mean, even that was like man, it's like you used to pay like 10 or 20 cents a round for ammo, and that is not the case anymore at all. Christoph says, finally on. Anyone else deplatformed today? So the philosopher's husband was, I don't know of anyone else. Glenn Greenwald actually resigned from his own media outlet, The Intercept, that he started. And even though he has full contractual control over his writing, the editors and stuff actually censored an article, and they refused to publish it unless he took out anything that was critical of Joe Biden at his own media outlet. So part of the contract was that as long as he was with The Intercept, he couldn't publish anywhere else. So he resigned and started another website, which is like amazing. It's great that he came out and is telling people what's going on, because, you know, you say the mainstream media, the legacy media is censoring stories about Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, whatever else. And, you know, you always get the, oh, you're a Russian bot, you're a Russian troll, or, you know, the Washington Post's line now about how we have to treat everything as Russian misinformation, even if it isn't. I mean, it's a load of crap. It's a load of crap. But, you know, Glenn Greenwald is sort of like a liberal hero, right? He exposed the NSA, everything with Edward Snowden. And so, I mean, I feel like a lot of the left would be hard pressed to say that he's making stuff up. But then again, even now, like, I mean, he's more of a centrist, I suppose, when compared to a lot of the other folks out there at this point. Just a random dude. Again, it came through with the Ashton Kutcher thing. I don't know about that, so I'll have to look into that. Robin says, don't you wish that both sides would cheat equally? I mean, because you know they're going to cheat, but at least if they did it equally, then like it would maybe cancel each other out. Jim Vroman says, you're awesome. Thank you, Jim. Daniel Kunkel says the disparity between Trump and Biden crowds seems to indicate Trump would win handily, but I never underestimate the fraud aspect or hatred for Trump as a motivator from the left. Exactly. That's the thing, is the hatred that they have for him is just, I mean, it's all consuming, right? It's just, it's off the charts. And, you know, someone I just saw in the chat made the point that, you know, it might be that there's not a lot of people at the Biden rallies because these are people that have already decided. They're not really issue voters. They're just, you know, orange man bad voters, and they've already made their decisions. So they're not going to go like bother going to a rally or an event. And that is entirely possible. That might be the case. But in poll after poll after poll that I have been seeing for weeks now has Biden ahead. I saw one that said Trump has a 2% chance of winning. It's just, I hope they're wrong. I'm scared for the future, honestly. And I mean, and speaking of, you know, the disparity between the Trump and Biden crowds, I don't know if you guys saw this. I retweeted it on Twitter. The New York Times came out with a piece where they took pictures of people's fridges and created a quiz out of it where you had to guess if it was a Trump supporter fridge or a Biden supporter fridge. And it was such a piece of crap because almost every picture of the Trump fridge had like pepperoni and like a 6-pack in it and was all like disorganized. And of course, you know, the Biden fridges had, you know, it was all like oat milk and almond milk and like vegan stuff and veggies. And there weren't any vegetables in like the Trump voter fridge. And I mean, it was just so like, I don't know. It showed stereotypes and extremes. It didn't show like normal people fridges. Like the Trump fridges had like loose eggs rolling around. Like what? I mean, and then they wonder why there are folks that think that the media is just a bunch of condescending, elitist assholes because they do things like this. And, you know, the legacy media complains about the polarization of America and then it's like, herder, look at these fridges. All Trump voters are dumb, alcoholic rednecks. Ha, ha, ha. Like, what do they think is going to come out of that? Like, what is the point? Except to sow more division and, you know, make fun of people and be like, oh, well, I'm better than you because my eggs are still in the carton, or I'm better than you because you've got a 6-pack of beer. Like, absolutely ridiculous. LP says, I will not comply. I'm assuming that's to a national lockdown. Robert Chappelle says, I'm half convinced masks are 10% health safety and 90% providing I always get this word wrong, anonymity for radicals. I mean, that might be part of it. The thing is having been in Massachusetts, the bulk of people in Massachusetts genuinely believe 100% that masks are effective. They are necessary. If you don't wear one, you are a murderer. If you don't wear one, you want people's grandparents to die. You don't care about society. You don't care about neighbors. You're just like a selfish narcissist. They genuinely believe that if you are not wearing a mask, even because you have a health condition that prevents it, you are anti-science. And you're stupid. They genuinely believe this. This is not just some crap that you see, rando blue checks on Twitter posting. Most of the people in Massachusetts, these leftists, genuinely believe that to the bottom of their hearts. They believe that the masks are effective, and if we just wear our mask harder and lock down a little tighter next time, we will somehow eradicate a virus, even though we've been unable to eradicate the flu or the common cold. They genuinely 100% believe this. It's not an exaggeration. Interested by YouTube says, look at one rally with Trump. More people attending than all of Biden's rallies. This is media hype. No worries, Trump 2020. I hope. I mean, I guess the one consolation could be, right, if people, if your average low information voter is paying attention to the polls, because I'm sure that these are being reported all over legacy media, that Biden's winning. They might, between that and fear of COVID, be complacent and not go out and vote. I don't know, man. I'm a conservative. Thank you for the super chat. Q says, I'm looking forward to another Young Turks freak out. I must have missed the first one. Well, they've had so many, so I guess that's not quite right. Jesse Meek says, just left an Asian restaurant here in Kansas. Everyone was talking about the election and the other topics you're covering here tonight. We all started watching your stream while we waited for our food. You have 14 new fans in Kansas. Awesome. Thank you. Oh, that's awesome. Gardner. Hi, Gardner says, hi, LD. I think the Texas Republican woman is a never Trumper. And she loves making extra cash on the side by manipulating ballots. How lovely. The way the state offers opportunities for corruption. Indeed. And what's interesting is if Trump's getting a lot of hate from government workers right now because he passed that executive order last week or the week before that basically made it so that if you work for government and do a bad job, they can fire you. Who would have thought, my God, that if you don't do your job, you should be able to be fired? What a horrible thing. And it's funny because the people that are against, I'm against executive orders on principle, but the people that are against it because it gets rid of protections for government workers are claiming that it's taking away their due process and denying their civil rights. On what earth is having a job and forcing your employer to keep you employed even if you're shit at your job? On what planet is that a civil right? How is being fired a denial of due process? It's a job. You're not getting criminal charges. You're not being arrested. You're not going to jail. It's a job. Oh, goodness. All right, so let's pop over to what's happening in France. Now, interestingly enough, I do have a video that is coming out. My patrons and things are aware of it already. I gave them the preview today. I have yet to put it up on Subscribestar, but it's coming. Of the, all the lockdowns that are going on, how the states are some of the states are rolling back their reopenings, Massachusetts being one of them, of course. And now, at the time when I wrote that video and recorded it, Spain had instituted a new lockdown, and so had Italy. So now there's one in France, and these travel bans that are going on in Europe are so intense that you need to have a piece of paper, special paper with a special reason or excuse, permission to leave your home, is what's happening in Europe right now. Like I said, the grocery store shelves are empty. People are fleeing. There's gridlock. I believe they said it's like 100 miles of streets in Paris that are just standstill of people trying to flee, so much so that people are getting out of their cars and abandoning their cars, trying to get out to the countryside. So we have this from the New York Post. So this was 2 days ago that the lockdown was first implemented in France, I believe, or announced. So let me get this bigger for you guys. So over in France, they announced Wednesday that the country would move into another nationwide lockdown to prevent the spread of COVID. And it's so funny because all of these people are like masks. Well, I mean, in Europe, they've been wearing masks. And I mean, look at that. They're having a second wave to the point that they're locking down again. Like, could it be worse without masks? Possibly, but they certainly don't have the efficacy rates that like the people of Massachusetts seem to think they do if this is what's going on in places with high mask compliance. So the lockdown went into effect today and will last a month at the minimum, until at least the end of November, according to the BBC. All non-essential businesses will be shuttered. Schools and factories will remain open, which is interesting. So it's kind of like what we had happening in Massachusetts, except in Massachusetts, our schools were also closed. But all non-essential businesses, all restaurants, everything, boom, boom, done. Factories, I mean, you could argue are essential. That's probably why they're excluded. So they said the move was to prevent the threat of the country being overwhelmed by a second wave that no doubt will be harder than the first. Meanwhile, they are getting record new cases. In the video at the time, that record was 52,000 new cases in a single day. But remember, testing is a lot more widespread than it was now. And I mean, by the CDC numbers, this is nowhere near as deadly as original estimates, at least in the US. Abroad, there's issues with, oh, wow, surprise, universal health care, making it a lot more difficult for them to combat some of these things and handle some of these things. We also have like higher rates of cigarette smoking and certain health conditions and things like that. But anyways, So France has seen the highest number of daily deaths from the virus since the spring and has logged tens of thousands of new cases every day, according to the BBC. So they said that the country needed to brutally apply the brakes to stop the spread of the virus. The virus is circulating at a speed that not even the most pessimistic forecasts had anticipated. And again, this is despite mask use and social distancing. So that argument could go one of two ways, right? It leads us down to the fork in the road, right? And maybe it will be the one less traveled, probably not. So you could look at that data. I look at that data and say, well, okay, well, then that shows us that social distancing and mask use doesn't really do much. Well, then, okay, we shouldn't do it. Some people, the left in particular, I'm guessing, would look at that and say, oh, well, if that shows us those things don't do anything, then we definitely need to lock down and we can't do anything until there's a vaccine. And I'm willing to bet that with that information, that's what we're going to see, those two deviations. And we're probably going to have the more like southern red states. Florida said they're not going to lock down again. South Carolina said that we're not going to lock down again. Oklahoma said they're not going to lock down again. So you're going to see those states probably be like, oh, well, okay, this isn't really doing anything. So we're not going to bother locking down because there's nothing we can do and let's just go. And they're probably going to have places like California, who has basically banned Thanksgiving and Christmas. By the way, I'll do a video on that at some point. And places like Massachusetts, probably like, Oregon, Washington, these like deep blue, New York, New Jersey, places like that probably are going to say like, oh, well, this is proof that we need the lockdown. Look at what's happening to them in Europe. Their stuff isn't working. So now this is our only choice. And so that's where I think that is going. And it's interesting too, because I have another video that's coming out that I filmed at like 2 a.m. a couple days ago. Even BuzzFeed is talking about civil unrest and civil war, which is crazy. And the experts that they polled in their article talked about like big moral divides. And I mean, to lock down versus to not lock down, I would say that's a pretty big moral divide. I mean, that's just another thing to drop on top of the stack at this point, right? So, wow, in Germany, I did not know this. In Germany, they just started a partial lockdown that they announced on Wednesday that would allow shops and schools to remain open, but force other non-essential businesses to close. So, okay, Germany is locked down now too. So we have Spain, Italy, Germany, and France at this point that are locked down. Now, check this out. This is from the AP. Parisians flee, sidewalks empty as France enters the lockdown. So we have all these pictures. Now these are pictures of people that are like trying to get out of the city and catch trains and things. Here we go. Dystopian images of log jams that stretched 435 miles at one point Thursday evening, exacerbated by the upcoming long holiday. What holiday weekend? They must have a holiday weekend. Were a grim sign of a return to the dark days of the spring when virus cases swelled in Europe and many countries kept their citizens inside for weeks on end. With infections hitting record levels in some countries, many are now resorting to severe restrictions again. In France, concerns were growing of rising infections. The only places that were busy were grocery stores and markets as people stockpiled food and other necessities. And I'm telling you, if it's happening in Europe again, it's probably going to happen here too. I mean, there's going to be the people that stocked up and prepared last time, and they will be fine. But anyone that didn't, you're going to have your like suburban soccer moms and your hipsters in the city freaking out and running to the grocery stores, getting their bread and milk, and I don't know, like the vegans are going to go get their tofu or whatever. We're going to have a repeat. I think at least in the blue states, we're going to have a repeat. People are going to be freaking out. They're going to be buying their toilet paper. I mean, honestly, like paper goods here never even went back to the same stock they were before. Walmart and Sam's Club and all of these places are still only allowing you to buy one package at a time. They are still rationing the toilet paper and paper towels here. At all times with no visitors or risk steep fines or prosecution. There's a handful of exceptions, such as being allowed out for 1 hour of exercise within a half-mile radius of your home. So not only are you not allowed to leave, but in the few exceptions where you would be, you have to stay within a half-mile of your home. That's ridiculous. The only other reasons you'd be allowed out are medical appointments, work, or shopping for essential goods, restaurants, cafes. Done. No more going to friends' houses, having people over, or moving around for anything other than the reasons set out. And I don't know if it talks about it in this article, but say if you do have a job that is still open, you need papers to prove it. And you will have to present those papers to the police, and the police will be stopping people and questioning them and asking for papers. In Spain as well, travel bans where you can't go between regions in Spain, Italy. Same thing. I'm telling you, they're basically putting in place lockdowns almost identical to in the spring. So, yep, here it says they talk about new daily cases are currently averaging around 50,000 in France. And again, we don't know. I don't know how they're counting them in France and what's going on. In the US, they were also counting probable cases. So there's a difference between probable cases and confirmed cases. And they don't say whether or not the bulk of those people are asymptomatic or, whatever. Many of France's European neighbors are experiencing rising infections, even beyond what they saw in the spring. I know that Angela Merkel came out and said that it's worse in Germany than it was in the spring right now. In Belgium, the average number of daily cases is around 150 per 100,000 people, which is funny because here in the States, right, I mean, our curve is pretty flat. We've flattened the curve still at this point. But in Boston, and in Massachusetts, how Governor Baker is deciding what is a high-risk area is if there's 8 cases per 100,000 people. So in Belgium, they're making a big deal out of 150. In Massachusetts, 8. And as a matter of fact, there was a town that I used to have an office in just became a high-risk red area where now they've rolled back some of their reopenings. The mask mandates are tighter because of things going on there. And they've had a total of 32 cases over the last month in that city. And it's a pretty urban area. And that is what makes them a high-risk area. While in Belgium, their high risk is 150 for 100,000. It's that's why I say blue states, it's coming. If these are the parameters that they have, it is absolutely coming in the blue states. So in Belgium, they're met today to decide if they're going to put tougher restrictions down. Germany is doing their partial lockdown. That does not really sound all that partial. They're already talking about a 11% fall in national GDP in France. I'm looking to see if we can see pictures of the traffic trying to get out. Many Parisians who had had enough last time around didn't wait to be confined to their typically cramped apartments for 4 weeks. He called this guy that they talked to called the departure of the Parisians a historic exodus. A lot of people are saying they're planning to stay out of town in the countryside until Christmas. So it sounds like people don't even believe this lockdown's only going to last a month. They're preparing for 2 months. It sounds like. Trying to find some of these pictures. Some of the pictures of the people trying to leave France were just crazy. And I guess there's like these violent protests and riots breaking out too from people that are just like trying to get supplies and fighting over resources. It is a hot mess. Let's see. We'll try the New York Times, I suppose. Here we go. Here's some of the pictures. I mean, look at this. Look at this. These are all people trying to get out of Paris ahead of the lockdowns. Look at that. I mean, it's like, you know, those disaster movies or something where you see people trying to get out because of some crazy like national emergency, like apocalypse. That's what it looks like, right? Miles and miles. So this is part of those 435 miles of gridlock traffic of people trying to get out of the cities. Buses were flooded, trains were flooded. I mean, look at this. Back-to-back cars. Aerial pictures show the huge traffic jams as they tried to get out of their homes into the country before the 9 p.m. curfew. They packed railway stations. Car horns could be heard blaring as others decided to spend their final night before lockdown with friends and families in bars and restaurants. Supermarket shelves were stripped bare in a repeat of scenes of panic buying in March across Europe. And people were seeing even lining up outside hairdressers for a final cut before the lockdown. France's nationwide lockdown begins today and will be enforced until at least December 1st, with reviews every 2 weeks thereafter. And we know what that looks like, right? The 2 weeks to flatten the curve, 2 weeks to flatten the curve. They're going to be locked down for who knows how, when. And here, right, so companies that are based out of Boston had originally talked about, because Boston is completely shut down and locked down still. They're still doing mostly remote work. Some businesses have been allowed to open, provided you can do all of these crazy hoops to jump through for COVID. So places like hospitals even were first like, okay, we will allow employees back in the building in July. And then they moved it to January. Now they are saying July of 2021 that they're going to be keeping people out of their offices. That means that there are people that are expecting that Boston and Massachusetts is going to be locked down until next July. That would be, what, 18 months? 18 months. And people would probably say, well, that's how long the Spanish flu lasted or something like that. But, like, God, look at this. This is what's coming. These pictures. This is what's coming. I mean, it'll be interesting because already there's a lot of people that have left from the cities here. Like I said, the real estate here is going nuts. But I mean, at the very least, like there's going to be panic buying at the grocery stores again. And the fact that last time around, supply chains were in fact disrupted and meat plants were in fact shut down, and the grocery store shelves were in fact empty, that's going to make even more of a panic now, because people are going to be like, well, that happened last time. Let me get out earlier this time. Let me make sure that I go and bulk buy and hoard things. Oh. And I mean, the crazy thing is as much as people are fleeing, at least in these news stories, they're like, oh, but everyone thinks this is a great idea. Oh, the locals welcomed this with open arms. I don't know if that's really the truth, but here's some. Well, you know what? This video is not monetized, so we'll play it and see what happens, and hopefully it'll be okay. You can get in trouble for showing these. I didn't know if this was one of the violent ones. Something about liberty. I do speak a small amount of French.
On peut pas être confiné et en fait on en a marre des couvre-feux, tout ça. Après on comprend bien, c'est pour la maladie quoi, mais bon faut pas abuser. À partir d'aujourd'hui à minuit, genre on doit être tous chez nous, c'est trop. Moi je vais pas. Moi je vais pas et je vais rester là.
I have no idea what she just said. Sorry. I mean, these people aren't happy about it.
On est là pour contester évidemment le confinement qui a été proclamé par le président.
Something
En
about
dépit du bon sens de toute réalité
the
épidémique.
proclamation by the president.
Aux mesures qui sont prises et voilà, on pense que c'est la mise en place d'un totalitarisme insupportable. Et on entend bien faire entendre notre voix.
These people don't care. They're like, whatever. Sorry, that was kind of funny. Something about history of the world. Like I said, it's a very small amount input. Yeah, I've heard that the police are out in full force too. Dude seriously says Paris is nasty already. That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard. Seeing this many people mad about it kind of like gives me a little bit of hope, though. It's a little heartening. Now, can you imagine this on top of all the crazy protests and riots and things that we already have going on in like New York and Philly and DC? Like, I mean, that would just be nuts. Absolutely nuts. Let's see if I have to be careful with some of these videos because I think some of them actually got pretty bloody. Because there were some violence at some of these, and YouTube does not like that. But it's 8:30, so I will grab the super chats, the rest of the super chats here, and we'll discuss those for the next few minutes. John Morgan says, even the police don't know how to wear a mask. Let's see. Fred Hill says, most states will be calling up the National Guard. Yeah, I've heard threats of that. I've heard talk of that even for just in preparation for the election. I don't know of any states that have expressly stated that, we'll say, but Massachusetts has had over 10,000 National Guardsmen waiting in the wings for the last, let's see, they had called in the National Guard like a week before I left, and then they called in the National Guard sometime last month. So they've got National Guard troops there, ready and waiting already, for like protests and helping with government duties. So National Guard is already in Massachusetts. I don't know about other places. I don't know if they ever left Rhode Island from the lockdowns, but I mean, yeah, there were places that already called in the National Guard. Rhode Island had the National Guard pulling people over and checking license plates and asking for people's papers there. So, I mean, they're going to do it again. Q says that I wasn't supposed to make that gesture. Robin says, confuse a lib, wear a mask, and a gun. That is confusing to some folks, I guess, and illegal in some places. Alien Probe Victim says, my YouTube handle is supposed to be a joke. Never thought I would wish to be abducted just to get away from the political insanity. It is intense. It is really intense. And, you know, if Joe were to win, like, what are the media people going to talk about? Because they won't have Trump to hate on anymore. Like, what would that even be like? I have no idea. Captain Max says the Texas State Guard is also on short notice standby. So it sounds like there are some states out there, and I know Texas is preparing for election day violence. I know that New York is, and I know that LA is. They basically have all of their officers on call and on standby for that day. And a lot of police departments have been running drills and like practicing daily because they think there's going to be election day violence. I saw an article recently that said 72% of Americans think that there is going to be civil unrest around the election. That is a lot. That is a lot, considering, you know, statistically speaking, a lot of the polls say first it was like 20% of Americans think there'll be a civil war, and then it was like 25%, and it's kind of been hanging around there, and now suddenly 72% are like, oh yeah, there's going to be riots and there's going to be violence around the election. That is a huge jump. Huge jump. Ghost of Recon says everything would be Trump's fault until at least 2028. Jesse Meek says lockdowns, papers to travel only specific distances. Sounds like Germany in World War II. It does, doesn't it? And I mean, you make that comparison and you're like, oh, you're, you know, people say then, oh, you're, I mean, some people will say like, oh, well, the Holocaust was more serious than that, or COVID is more serious than that, or you're a Russian bot or whatever. Like, you can't make that comparison in any meaningful way to someone on the left without them devolving into like foaming at the mouth and name calling. Rose brought up a very good point. Rose Blight says 0 cases of flu since February. It's all COVID 1984. Indeed. I might have to make a shirt that says something like, I survived COVID 1984 and all I got was this t-shirt and a mask mandate in a lockdown, or something like that. I've been thinking about it. I might have to, I have a little bit more free time now. Once I get this next round of videos out, maybe I'll put some new shirts in the shop with crap like that. It's really, really ridiculous. People are complaining. Oh, interesting. People are complaining that now there's something going on with the stream and that I'm buffering. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Huh. Okay. Cool. So I showed that video of what's going on in France, And then the stream basically died, it looks like. Well, I apologize for that. Wow, Boris says that the CDC just cleared 5 Florida cruise ships to restart operations. Good luck restarting that industry. Well, I hope they restart because I bought a bunch of stock in them when everything crashed in March. So that would be pretty cool if I made my money back. People are saying that Washington, D.C. is already boarding up. Man. Though, that's interesting. Ozark makes a good point, and I hadn't thought of this, so this is a really good point. He says that if places are boarding up and expecting civil unrest, that means that they think that Trump will win. That's valid. That's a valid point. But then again, like, well, yeah, well, or I'm seeing lots of folks saying that there will be violence because Trump won't accept a transition of power, and so his base won't either. That was BuzzFeed's whole reasoning behind predicting there will be a civil war, as they said, oh, from right-wing militia groups that won't accept Trump losing. So we'll see, man. They keep saying on the election of our lifetime, the election of our lifetime. I mean, I think it will be the election of our lifetime up until this point, and then I think the next one will also be the election of our lifetime. I feel like we're on like the precipice of a cliff, and we're just kind of like teetering back and forth like in the cartoons, and it could go either way. But if we don't tip over this time, we're going to tip over next time, and we're still going to be on the edge, just like balancing. That's how I feel about it. Lots of people are agreeing that is what is happening. All right, folks. Well, it is 8:40. So we are going to wrap it. I think I touched on everything that I wanted to today, at least in brief. I know that the only polls that I showed were 538, but I mean, if you just Google them or DuckDuckGo them, they're all saying the same thing right now. There's one poll, only one poll that shows Trump winning. I don't remember which one it is, but all the other ones are full, saying there will be a full Biden landslide. I hope that is not the case. Robert Chappelle says, if Biden wins, the media will do what they did during the Obama administration. They will take a sabbatical, probably. Or, they'll find some way to still blame like right-wing militia groups for whatever. But we'll see. Cap'n Max says Vegas has been taking odds for 3 months now. Wow. Now that is like some peak capitalism. That's awesome. That feels like some apocalyptic, like Fallout, New Vegas, like wasteland type stuff. I like it. I like it a lot. All right, everyone. I get so hoarse, like yelling during these things. All right, everyone. So thanks for tuning in. And please, again, check out the partners down in the description. Check out My Patriot Supply. If you haven't, they have the 2-week supplies available now as well. If you want some links for Warfighter Tactical, just hit me up. You can hit me up on email, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. Facebook is kind of weird because they don't update the messages for some reason, and I have trouble loading them and seeing them. But Twitter, email, whatever. My email is in the description as well. Hit me up if you want those links for Warfighter Tactical. I do have a discount coupon code for you guys. Check out like the water filtration. Go to your grocery stores now if there's anything that you need or think that you will need in the next like month. Do it now. Don't wait for people to be out panic buying because you will regret it. Bone Blyett 762 says Fallout New Vegas to New Orleans. Oh, yes. And also I will not be doing the usual live stream next week. I will be, provided the world hasn't ended, I will be in Texas meeting Ron Paul. So exciting. I might live stream election night. I don't really know. We'll see. I mean, we're not going to have really any information. So I don't know. Haven't really fully decided on that. But either way, again, everyone, thanks for tuning in. Thank you for all of the super chats. And we've got one last one that just came in from Mr. Rover Pilot. Says more people have voted in early voting in Texas by last Wednesday than voted in the entire 2016 election. Well, I mean, and unfortunately, what the Democrats needed was a record voting turnout, and maybe that's what they got. Time will tell, I am afraid. But at the very least, maybe I'll see you Tuesday. Maybe I'll see you in a couple weeks. Stay safe, everyone. Christoph says change your oil, fill your gas tanks, and I'll see you on the other side. All right, guys. Have a